Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers should exercise caution when watching this program, as it may contain images of deceased persons.
Kaya, Nga Neil Coyne.
And I'm Kimberly Benjamin.
Welcome back to another episode of Noongar Dangi.
Tonight we'll visit Katanning and catch up with the Carrolup artworks.
We'll also meet respected Noongar elder Noel Nannup and welcome back a very talented Ulla Shay.
But first, one of the most iconic figures in Noongar history is to be commemorated in the centre of Perth. Yagan is famously known as a warrior who played a key part in early resistance to British settlement. He was killed in 1833, his head then removed and preserved in a London museum.
Yagan's head was returned to Noongar country in 2010 after a group of Noongar elders fought for his return and his burial at Memorial Park in Swan Valley.
Now, as a part of the redevelopment of Perth City Centre, the state government has commissioned Yagan Square. Nikki Parkinson reports.
Right now, the area beside the Horseshoe Bridge is just a building site. But soon, Yagan Square will look something like this. It will feature a canopy with a lighting installation inspired by the ancient lakes of Perth, and a digital tower made up of 14 reeds representing the languages of Noongar Nation, and the amphitheatre to host events and performances with a capacity of 8,500. And it is all to honour this man, Yagan, a Noongar hero both feared and admired, killed and decapitated by English settlers in 1833. Over a century after his death, a group of Noongar elders set out to London to bring back his head or cart to be laid to rest in Yagan Memorial Park.
Well, Yagan is someone we should all reflect on and admire, as are other human beings. Yagan was seen as a figure that stood up and basically questioned and fought for his right as one of the leaders of this land, and therefore throughout history he's been represented as a warrior.
From design to development, Yagan Square proudly showcases Noongar culture and traditions. Aimed to bring people together as well as linking inner city Perth to Northbridge, visitors will feel Aboriginal presence and input.
We believe it's an inclusive place. We believe it's a place that's going to reflect the heritage of Whadjuk, Noongar people. It'll be under the iconic naming of Yagan and Yagan as Yagan Square.
Within the Noongar community, the significance of naming a place in Perth after an Aboriginal person has raised different viewpoints.
Yeah, there are some of us that would think that this is probably a noble gesture, but what does it really all mean? I'm of the other opinion that we need a place where Yagan can be a symbol for contemporary Aboriginal Australians living in Western Australia.
Because in our culture, we rarely, if at all, if ever at all, name anything, particularly a location, after a person.
As Perth awaits the new social hub in 2017, one may wonder, what would Yagan think if he saw this place named after him?
He'd be saying, well, where's my trees? Where's the water? Where's the lakes? What is this place? Because you'd recognise what's there when you're there and you're a part of. What we have to do is understand where we are at this moment in time. There's no way in the world that the people in Perth today will say, well, let's get rid of all our big buildings to put up more trees and we're all going to live how Aboriginals lived.
Ultimately, Yagan Square will be a place to celebrate a significant person in Noongar and West Australian history. It will honour the man who stood up for his beliefs and principles, no matter the cost. And for that, his legacy will always be kept alive.
Yagan Square is right in the middle of a very interesting building precinct. People will have to traverse and sit down in Yagan Square and they'll have to discuss who is Yagan. And certainly when tourists and others come to this country, they always want to have an Aboriginal experience. And our young people can now say, Well, we'll give them a cultural experience. We'll tell them all about Yagan, and if governments get it right, we can actually perform and show off our culture in Yagan Square.
Now joining us in the studio is Mingli Wandjuri McGlade, who was a part of the committee to bring back Yagan's head, and Karen Jacobs, who helped design Yagan Square. Welcome to the studio, Karen and Mingli.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to have you in here and talking about Yagan, obviously. And Mingli, what do you think of having a modern Yagan Square in the middle of Perth?
Okay, I'd just like to say before I say that you're talking about him and ancestors. I'd like to call on them to be with us because we're talking about him and be guided by what they might bring to us today. I very rarely talk without acknowledging them and this country and this land. So, I think it looks fantastic, and I think it'll be a great thing. There's probably other things that could be done there. It's a long way off, but I think it's a congratulations to those people who've been involved.
And Karen, you were involved in the designing of the landscape of Yagan Square. What did that entail?
It was interesting because we had to go back and actually look at the lay of the land prior to colonisation and what that area was specifically used for by Whadjuk people. And it was very much a women's place, and it was a sacred ochre ground for women in that particular location. Had the highest quality of red ochre underneath where the Wellington train station currently has been constructed. So really going back and looking at the landscape before colonisation as a wetlands, as an ochre site, as a women's meeting place and talking place, and trying to reflect the modern day landscape against the landscape of what we once had.
And is there any acknowledgement of that women's area?
There is in the marketplace being called Belbuck Place.
There you go.
Mingli, will the Yagan Square help the younger Noongar people know who Yagan is, what kind of warrior he was and what he stood for?
There needs to be some information around there somehow. Otherwise, many don't know. As you probably know, the schools are dependent on if the teachers are involved and supportive. Otherwise, there has to be some information there. There may be, hopefully there's some, just my suggestion then is, hopefully there's some days that elders can go there and hopefully the schools will go there and they'll be able to go there and be told about it because a lot of people do not know.
Karen, throughout the design of Yagan Square, there's actually no representation of Yagan himself. Can you tell us why that is?
So Yagan Square will not only portray Yagan in naming rights, but also those heroes of the day, such as Belbuck, which the marketplace will be named after underneath, and a number of other different areas will basically represent the apical ancestors, and there will be pictorials of them.
Well, that's really great to hear, and you know, your involvement, both of your involvement in this has been so important. So, thank you for joining us here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great to be here.
Continuing our story from last season about the Carrolup collection of children's art, the John Curtin Gallery exhibited a selection of artworks in Katanning in the state's southwest in September 2015. Join us as we revisit these once lost artworks.
All of the paintings in the collection were created between 1946 and 1951. In the classroom, the Carrolup State School, it was a education department run state school, but it was within the boundaries of the Carrolup Native Settlement, so it was quite unusual for the time.
Whatever they saw out in the bush, they had to paint when they come back to their classroom.
So it was a matter of them, you know, observing, taking note of things. They weren't allowed to take any materials with them, so it was just, they had to work from memory.
The children, instead of talking out and saying things, they did it in the paintings. They tell a story about their kids' experiences, what they've had when they were in Carrolup.
People didn't believe that these kids at 12 and 14 were doing these paintings.
People were quite taken aback at how well observed their drawings were and how sophisticated their techniques were. Having the works touring throughout the Great Southern is having them back on Noongar country, which is very important for Noongar people.
In Katanning this week is the most 100th centenary for Carolup, and it's a historical event. We have a lot of people travelling from Perth and all around WA. These are Carolup art, which has been done by a lot of artists back in when I was 14, back in the 1940s, and I think this is the best part. It's going to be really affecting a lot of people too, especially a lot of elders who travelled who will be up here to see it as well, even though a lot of them have seen it before, but they're happy to do it again. And we're not just having Aboriginal people, we're also having all mixed.
Everything went off really good. The paintings were all put up on the walls. People were very interested in it.
It's nice to finally be down here in Carolup after having learned about the Carolup artwork that was recently returned to Western Australia, and Curtin University in particular, from New York, Colgate University in New York. So it's wonderful to have been part of the exhibitions. I visited in Albany, and then now here in Katanning yesterday evening, and now being here at Carolup today as we recognize the 100th anniversary of the settlement mission.
It's still a good place to live, still a good place to come back and visit. Got a lot of memories here because you look at the people and in your memory bank and think, where are they today? Are they alive today or they're deceased? And it's a sad time, but it's a good time too to reflect on that history.
Maybe in the future there's ways that we can share them more, because the dilemma we have is that we're trying to make them as accessible as possible and preserve them for as long as possible. But this is the first time that, a lot of the work have been that close to the place where they were originally made at Carolup. And for local Noongar people in Katanning, it's very, very special. Yeah, there's many reasons that people are interested in the collection. It's rarity, it's value culturally to Noongar people in WA, and the fact that it was lost for a long time and was rediscovered not that long ago.
Respected Noongar elder Noel Nannup is an influential mentor and storyteller, and is known for sharing creation stories. Listen as we hear about how the western blue wren got its colour.
In the dreaming, the colours all came down from the sky, and as they did, whatever was the highest in the sky received the colours first and took as much as they wanted. Like the moon, it had a beautiful orange and red tail. Obviously, the sun took most of the red. And then there was the beautiful blue sky. And as the colours reached the land, all the birds were not happy. They didn't have those beautiful colours they wanted. So they all gathered together, and as they did, they worked out how they would get the colours to the land. And when they took their places in the sky with Walidge the eagle flying the highest, and then of course, Budalung the pelican circling and circling. Everything was in place. The relay began, and they set off on their flight. When all of a sudden, this little bird flew out from the back of the pelican. It went up into the sky, and as it did, it shook itself and got all the beautiful blue that it could gather. And then it came back down to the land, and it hid amongst the plants and the shrubs. And as it was hiding there, all the other birds came back. The little blue bird was peeping around and looking at them. And as it was looking at them, one of the birds of prey noticed this and thought, it cheated. It flew up from the back of the pelican it and took the blue. And Walich the eagle said, because you cheated and you flew up from the tail of Boodalung, we have to punish you. And your punishment is that you could never fly above the low canopy, up into the taller trees, because if you do, one of our birds of prey will catch you and eat you. And to this day, that's where you'll find the western blue wren, hiding in amongst the low canopy.
Ula Shay, also known as Candice LeRae, is a powerful Indigenous singer, songwriter and producer. Starting her career from a young age, Ula has released 2 albums and multiple singles, performing across Australia by the age of just 24 to become the multiple award-winning artist that she is today.
My sister is also left.
Music has been, I guess, a real big part of my life ever since I was little. When we were travelling down from Darwin, in the car, me and my mum and my nana, we drove down. It took about 7 days or so to drive down. Mum seen some junk on the side of the road and she stopped and she looked in there and she found a tape of Whitney Houston's Bodyguard.
Gee, that was so long ago, wasn't it? And just kept playing it in the car because we had nothing else. We couldn't get radio.
And I just knew I so want to be like Whitney Houston. And once we got to Perth, that's all I ever thought about was singing. And I remember the very first, Student of the Week award that I'd won when I was in year 2. And Ed had asked me, what I want to be when I grow up. And from then I was writing singer. Uwarlin was the very first band that I was a part of when I was 17. Jessie Lloyd from the group, who's now my sister-in-law, she approached me at Ab Music and asked if I'd like to be a part of it. So it was a full front line of girls singing, backed by a band. It was a really big experience for me, touring and learning the ropes of the industry at 17. I got a call from a lady in Melbourne called Colleen Zulian, and she said, look, I'm looking for an established Indigenous artist under 30 that can do this. And I was like, what is it? And she's like, well, there's a world contest in the Ukraine. And we got to Crimea, we had a police escort straight down to the venue where we were performing at.
How far I still know from this day I look above.
And she had to write her own song about relating to Indigenous Australia. She wrote From This Day I Look Above, and that's about the stolen generation, a little girl that couldn't find her mother, and it's a beautiful song.
The 15-metre stage in a huge concert hall.
My mother I cannot find. I have searched high and low. The stars remind me. My angel, the stars will find me.
It was when Michelle Wilson from Noongar Radio said, could you get Angela Rule and Elizabeth Gogos together in a group to perform the premiere of the Sapphires? So that was a real big turning point for me when the Marindas kicked off.
When I get to help other Indigenous artists, and when I work with kids and I get the kids in the recording studio and I get to record their song and they're like, oh, their faces, when they light up, and seeing their pride and really, just makes me quite emotional sometimes.
So we come to the end of another episode of Noongar Danji, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Right, Kimber?
Yeah, Neil. And by liking our Facebook page, you can stay up to date with all things Noongar Danju.
But right now, on the Emu deck, we're privileged to have Ula Shay herself.
Please welcome Ula Shea and her producer Disaster with We're Over.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Every word I say is not getting through your head. Every sound I make, you're not listening. I say it over and over again, over and over again. Every step I take, you're standing in my shadow. Every morning I wake, you are watching me, haunting me over and over again, over and over again. Why don't people listen to the ones we love when there's no trust? We're over. Why is freedom always hard to find in love when there's no trust? We're over. Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. Spent a long 5 years with you. I did not know what to do. I was lost and feeling alone, 'cause I had nowhere else to go. But I found the strength inside, because there's nowhere else to hide. I picked up stepping stones and I paved a long wide road. Yeah, 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 yeah. Why don't people listen to the ones they love when there's no trust? We're over. Why is freedom always hard to find in love when there's no trust? We're over. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Spent a long 5 years with you. I did not know what to do. I was lost and feeling alone, 'cause I had nowhere else to go. I spent a long 5 years with you. I did not know what to do. I was lost and feeling alone, 'cause I had nowhere else to go.